Imagine spending like 16 long years becoming this highly successful expert in human trauma.
Right.
You know, absolutely everything about survival,
Mm.
about recovery,
Mm.
just pulling yourself out of the darkest abyss imaginable.
Yeah.
And then one day you wake up and realize that all the surviving is, well, it's exactly what's killing your joy.
It is the ultimate paradox, really. I mean, you spend a decade and a half building this incredible bulletproof armor.
Oh, totally. Just to
Right.
get through the worst parts of life.
And it works. It keeps you safe.
Right.
But eventually you realize you're just trapped inside it. Like you can't actually feel the sunshine through 3 inches of steel.
Right, which is why whether you're prepping for a big meeting or, maybe catching up on psychological framework, or if you're just insanely curious about the mind-body connection, you are in the exact right place. Welcome to today's deep dive.
We have a really incredible one today.
We do. We're exploring excerpts from Melody Beattie's deeply personal book, Journey to the Heart.
And it's a fascinating departure from her usual work. What we have here is it's a collection of daily meditations written during this massive physical and spiritual road trip she took across the American West.
Yeah, and our mission today for you, the listener, is to really pull out the most vital, actionable insights from her trip. We're going to explore how you can transition from a life of mere survival and recovery into, like, a life of discovery.
Using your body and your environment as a guide.
Exactly. And honestly, the stories she uses to illustrate this are just wild. We're going to get into a paralyzing standoff on a bridge in Colorado.
Oh, that one is intense.
Seriously intense. And a panic lost in the woods moment in Yellowstone. And my personal favorite, a spinning priest.
Yes.
All of this to give you a shortcut to understanding your own internal landscape.
Well, to really grasp the magnitude of what she's doing out there in the desert, we have to look at the mental shift required to even put the key in the ignition.
Right, because leaving Los Angeles wasn't just a change of scenery for her.
Not at all.
She packs up her Jeep with just a computer, a map, and her intuition, and drives down the 10 East Freeway. But mentally, she's leaving behind an entire professional identity.
Yeah, for 16 years, her entire career was rooted in the concept of overcoming devastating pain. This trip was like her first project rooted entirely in excitement and freedom.
Which is huge. There's a quote she recalls from a prophetic friend as she's driving out of the city that perfectly captures this. Her friend told her, "You're not going to be finding your stories anymore, Melody. You're going to be living them."
Wow. I mean, that is such a profound distinction.
Right, because finding a story implies you're an observer. Like analyzing it from a safe distance, living it means you're in the mess.
Yeah, you're right in the middle of it. She describes this core transition as moving from the prattling, fearful head to the quiet, spontaneous heart.
The prattling head. I love that phrasing.
It's so accurate. The head is the part of us that plans, worries, sets rigid limits. The head wants an itinerary because an itinerary is a form of control.
Yeah, if you know exactly what's going to happen at 2:00 p.m., you can't be caught off guard.
Exactly. But the heart, at least in her framework, doesn't need to control the environment. It just experiences it.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like she's talking about upgrading your brain's operating system from survival mode to sandbox mode.
Sandbox mode. I like that.
Yeah, like in a video game where you've finally defeated all the enemies and now the game just lets you freely build and explore the map without constantly checking your health bar.
Right. Right.
But is it really that simple? Like, can you just decide to stop suffering and walk out the door?
Not exactly. What's fascinating here is that Beattie never claims that pain magically disappears once you hit the highway.
Okay.
She explicitly acknowledges that physical and emotional pain are permanent fixtures of the human experience, but she draws a hard line between pain and suffering.
So the suffering is the extra layer we add on top of the pain.
Yes, it is the narrative. Suffering is the story our prattling head tells us about the pain.
Oh, like the anxiety about whether the pain will return.
Right, or the anger about why the pain happened in the first place. When she talks about moving to the heart, she's talking about dropping that narrative.
Got it.
In survival mode, your head is constantly trying to control the environment to prevent getting hurt again. But in your sandbox mode analogy, you're trusting that you have the internal tools to handle whatever comes.
So you don't have to control everything.
Exactly. Which means you can finally just experience it.
And if we assume that the mind and the body are constantly talking to each other, dropping that heavy mental narrative is going to have some serious physical side effects. I mean, we know stress causes tension headaches.
Sure, yeah.
But Beattie's somatic experiences on this trip go way beyond a tight neck.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
She starts observing her body not just as a vehicle to get her from point A to point B, but as this deeply sensitive barometer for her soul.
A barometer, yeah.
When we hold on to old traumas or, suppress those conflicts narratives we just talked about, the body literally absorbs the physiological weight of those unexpressed emotions.
And she gets incredibly specific about this in the book. As she's traveling, doing this deep internal work, she notices these intense physical ailments creeping up out of nowhere.
Right, out of the blue.
Yeah, she feels this heavy, restrictive pain in her lungs, which she ultimately traces back to unexpressed grief.
Wow.
And later, she gets these sharp, sudden stomach pangs and realizes they are tied to a deep, denied rage.
And the mechanism here is what's so interesting, because she isn't taking medication for the stomach pangs.
No.
Once she mentally acknowledges the underlying emotion, once she actually lets herself feel the rage or the grief, the physical pain just subsides.
It's as if the body was only producing the pain to force her to pay attention.
Exactly. And she also becomes hyper aware of how her body interacts with the physical environment.
Oh, right, with the climate changes.
Yeah. In the dry heat of Arizona, her body demands massive amounts of water and different skin care. Up in the high mountain passes, her lung capacity shifts, and she is forced to breathe differently and just rest.
She stops overriding her physical reality and starts adapting to it.
Yes. And all of this micro-tuning leads to a massive physical breakthrough at Colony Beach.
Oh, the running story.
Yeah, to set the stage for you, Beattie had suffered from chronic health ailments in her youth. She was so physically restricted that she had never run more than a quarter of a block in her entire life.
A quarter block.
Right. She did not view herself as an athlete or even a particularly capable physical specimen.
But she's walking on the sand at this beach, doing this active emotional unblocking work, and suddenly, without a plan, without a warm-up, she just starts running.
Out of nowhere.
And she runs a full mile in the sand without stopping.
It completely stunned her. She thought it had to be a physiological fluke. But then she went out the next day and the next and kept running.
Now, I have to push back on this a little bit, because in modern wellness spaces, we hear this directive to listen to your body constantly.
Sir, all the time.
But usually that just means, like, take a nap or drink some water. What Beattie is describing sounds almost aggressive.
Yeah.
It's like a clogged engine physically fleshing itself out.
Yeah, it is.
So how do we distinguish between a genuine emotional release that causes a physical symptom and just, needing to go to an urgent care clinic?
It is a really important distinction, and Beattie doesn't advocate for ignoring acute medical issues. Obviously, if you break your leg, you go to a doctor.
Right.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the physiological mechanism she's describing, she uses this great metaphor of an emotional splinter.
Okay.
If you have a physical splinter embedded in your skin, your immune system attacks it. The surrounding tissue becomes inflamed, it swells, it throbs with pain. Why? To draw your attention to the foreign object so you'll remove it.
The body is dedicating resources to managing the threat.
Exactly. Now apply that to psychology. When we suppress a massive emotional splinter, the nervous system expends an incredible amount of daily energy just containing that trauma.
Because it's trying to wall it off.
Yes. It is exhausting. So when we finally pull the splinter out, when we acknowledge the grief or the rage, all that physiological bandwidth is suddenly freed up.
Oh, wow.
The body finds spontaneous, surprising ways to demonstrate its new surplus of energy, like suddenly having the lung capacity and the joint mobility to run a mile when you never have before.
That makes total sense. The hardware is unclogged.
Exact.
But having an unclogged internal system doesn't mean the external world suddenly rolls out the red carpet for you.
Definitely not.
In fact, the moment you drop your armor, the universe seems to test just how vulnerable you are actually willing to be.
The physical release is really just step one, because once you drop the illusion of control internally, you are inevitably forced to confront your lack of control externally.
You have to face the unknown.
You have to face the unknown.
And Beattie runs into a literal, terrifying monument to the unknown, the Royal Gorge Bridge in Colorado.
Oh, boy.
For those who don't know, this is the highest suspension bridge in the United States. It is suspended 1,050 feet above the Arkansas River.
And the important part is, it isn't a solid concrete highway.
No, the surface is made of wooden slats. You can look straight down through the cracks at a 1,000-foot drop.
Terrifying.
So Beattie arrives at this bridge with the intention of walking across it. But the moment she gets there, she is completely paralyzed by fear. Her body just says, Absolutely not.
Right.
So she decides to compromise and drive her Jeep across instead.
But even the protection of a vehicle isn't enough. I mean, she starts driving onto the slats, the tires are rumbling over the wood, and panic just completely takes over.
Yeah, she actually stops the Jeep, throws it in reverse, and backs off the bridge.
She is in full fight-or-flight mode.
She retreats back to the toll booth, rolls down her window, and asks the worker there, "Will I be fine?" And the worker just looks at her, smiles calmly, and says, "You'll be fine."
It's that simple.
Armed with just that tiny, almost absurdly simple reassurance, she puts the car in drive and inches her Jeep across those wooden slats, absolutely terrified to look left, right, or down.
She notes in the text that she never fully understood how much fear she was carrying inside her nervous system until she sat staring at that 1,000-foot drop.
Yeah.
But feeling that terror, really sitting in it and inching across anyway, that was a massive turning point for her. It was the literal manifestation of unclenching her hands from the steering wheel of her life.
That white-knuckle terror in the broad daylight is such a stark contrast to what happens to her next.
It really is.
Because later on, she is trying to find a specific lodge in Yellowstone National Park. It is pitch dark, she is exhausted, frantic, and driving in circles. She is completely off her planned itinerary.
She's experiencing that deeply ingrained modern panic of being late.
Yes.
The itinerary has failed, and her prattling head is screaming that this is a complete disaster.
Right. But then she happens to look up through the trees, and nestled perfectly between two mountain peaks glowing over the frozen lake is the most massive, breathtaking full moon she has ever seen. It completely stops her in her tracks.
Yeah.
And the realization hits her. She never would have seen this in the daylight.
Right.
And if she had been on time, according to her rigid schedule, she would have been inside the lodge unpacking her bags, completely missing the magic happening outside.
So, what does this all mean?
Wait, you took my line?
Oh, did I? Well, I mean, this raises an important question about how we are conditioned to view delays, detours, and the unknown. In a corporate productivity-obsessed mindset, getting lost is a failure. But Beattie introduces this philosophy about the lessons of the night.
Right. It feels like we treat our lives like a train on a rigid track. If a train gets off the track, it is a catastrophic derailment.
Yeah, a total disaster.
But maybe we need to treat life more like a GPS system. When you take a wrong turn, the GPS doesn't scream at you that you've ruined the entire trip. It just calmly says, recalculating, and finds a new route.
That's a great analogy.
And sometimes that new route takes you past a beautiful frozen lake.
That is a perfect way to look at it. The lessons of the night teach us that being lost isn't a punishment. The darkness reveals things that the daylight actively obscures. When we stop relentlessly trying to manipulate our environment to fit our timeline, we open ourselves up to the unexpected.
But surrendering that control is terrifying. I mean, if we're accepting that we have to drive across terrifying suspension bridges and wander around in the dark just to find the magic, we need a way to not just completely break down in the process.
We need a tether.
Exactly, we need a tether.
You need a way to ground the nervous system, and this is where she introduces the profound utility of comfort and ritual.
Oh, I love this part.
Not as luxuries, but as essential survival tools for the open heart.
And she gives a very specific example of this. She packed a bright red woolen blanket in her Jeep,
Yeah.
but she makes it very clear that she didn't pack it because she was planning on camping in the cold. She packed it purely as a deliberate tool for emotional nurturing. It was an object of pure comfort.
By doing that, she elevates the concept of comfort. It isn't a weakness to need a blanket. Alongside that physical comfort, she relies heavily on rituals. As she travels, she observes this incredibly diverse array of human rituals, and she studies how people use them to navigate uncertainty.
The variety she encounters is fascinating. She speaks to a woman who participated in a Jewish mikveh, which is a traditional ritual water immersion used to mark major life transitions or purification.
Right.
This woman did it under a full moon right before a long-awaited pregnancy. Later, Beattie spends time with an Osage shaman in Sedona, Arizona.
Ah, Sedona.
Yeah, Sedona is famous for its spiritual vortexes. These areas thought to have highly concentrated earth energy. But the shaman essentially tells her that she doesn't need to travel to all these specific geographical spots because the true sacred places are actually located within us.
And then, of course, we have the Catholic priest.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this story. She is visiting a monastery and she loses her car keys.
Of course she does.
She is frustrated, the itinerary is derailed again, and a priest walks up wearing his traditional flowing black robe. And instead of helping her retrace her steps, he starts joyfully spinning in a circle, clapping his hands, and reciting a rhyming prayer to St. Anthony, the patron saint of lost things.
I love that visual.
And 30 seconds later, the keys turn up.
Yeah.
But Beattie points out that the real miracle wasn't finding the keys. The miracle was witnessing an adult man use a ritual of pure, innocent joy to navigate a frustrating moment.
She also shares a deeply practical ritual for redefining our own limiting beliefs. She suggests taking a piece of paper and writing down all your current negative definitions of a problem you're facing.
Yeah.
Why not, every fear. Then on a separate page, you write down a new, highest truth definition of how you actually want that area of your life to look. Finally, you physically burn the first page.
Like actually light it on fire.
Literally burn it. You watch the smoke clear, and you save the new one.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because my prattling head kicks in here, and I have to ask, is there a danger here?
How so?
How do you distinguish between actively comforting yourself with a red blanket or a paper burning ritual and just straight up hiding from reality? Because if my bank account is severely overdrawn, burning a piece of paper isn't going to magically deposit funds. Isn't this just a sophisticated form of escapism?
It's a highly logical critique, but it fundamentally misunderstands the physiological purpose of a ritual. Beattie's framework views true comfort not as an escape from reality, but as a mechanism to regulate your nervous system so you can actually handle reality.
Walk me through that.
When you are panicked about that overdrawn bank account, your brain perceives a life or death threat. Your sympathetic nervous system kicks in.
Right, the fight or flight.
Yes, your breathing gets shallow, your muscles tighten, and your prefrontal cortex, the logical, problem-solving part of your brain, essentially shuts down.
Because you're just focused on surviving.
Exactly. You are trapped, pulling a red blanket around your shoulders, taking a deep breath, or performing a simple ritual like spinning and clapping for St. Anthony acts as a circuit breaker.
Oh, it hacks the physical response.
Precisely. It shifts you from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. It signals to your brain, we are safe right now.
Wow.
A relaxed body and a comforted spirit are infinitely better equipped to sit down, do the math, and creatively solve a real-world financial problem than a stressed, frantic mind. You aren't hiding from the bank account, you are preparing yourself to face it.
The ritual doesn't solve the problem, it prepares you to solve the problem.
Yeah.
That completely reframes the idea of self-soothing.
Changes everything.
And really, that reframing is the core of this entire text. We've covered incredible ground today analyzing Beattie's physical and emotional road trip. We started with the sheer necessity of leaving behind the rigid, planning mind and embracing the experiencing heart.
Yeah.
We explored how our bodies absorb the brunt of our unexpressed emotions and how pulling out those old emotional splinters can create startling physical breakthroughs, like running a mile in the sand.
We also looked at how external challenges, like terrifying bridges and getting lost in the dark, test our willingness to surrender control, and how tools of comfort and ritual are essential to regulate our nervous systems when we face those unknowns.
And the most empowering part of all this ties right back to what the Osage shaman told her. You do not need to pack up your car, quit your job, and drive to a mystical vortex in the desert to experience this shift.
No, you don't.
The sacred ground, the ability to transition from survival mode into discovery mode, is already right beneath your feet, exactly where you are right now.
But before we close the book on this deep dive, there is one final, incredibly provocative concept from Beattie's text that is crucial for anyone trying to clear their path forward.
Okay.
It is the concept of dead dreams.
Oh, that sounds heavy.
It is heavy, but it is necessary. Beattie writes that sometimes, as we travel through life, we carry around dreams that have simply expired.
Like what?
It could be a vision for a specific relationship, a career path you thought you'd be on by now, or just a version of your life that is simply no longer mathematically or logically possible.
Right.
But because we haven't consciously acknowledged that the dream is dead, we subconsciously walk around trying to force new people, new jobs, and new situations to fill those vacant, dead roles.
It is like casting new actors in a play that has already been permanently canceled.
That's exactly it.
Nobody is going to perform well, and you're just going to end up frustrated with the cast.
It sabotages the present. Beattie argues that we have to be willing to actually hold a funeral for our dead dreams. We have to mourn them, bless them for what they taught us, and then bury them.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound question for you to ponder as you go about the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Is there a dead dream in your life right now that you need to hold a funeral for?
Yeah.
What expired hope are you still dragging around in that heavy survival backpack? Because until you finally lay it to rest, you simply won't have the space or the empty hands to receive the life that is actually waiting for you. It might be time to stop surviving and start discovering.